right. Amazing to be here with you today, guys. I'm Flora McCormick here at Sustainable Parenting. I'm a licensed professional counselor of 15 years and parenting coach. And I'm super excited to be here with you. We've got those in Instagram listening up here, and I may be looking down a little bit to connect and be sure that I'm making eye contact here with those in Facebook. But I'm so excited that you're here, and it really matters to me that you are here. I know there's a lot going on in your life. I myself feel like I'm coming down with a cold, so I know it's like it takes stepping out of your obstacles and stepping into a space where you can start having solutions. It takes effort, and I want to make your effort worthwhile. So please leave us a comment below about how your Halloween was last night. Give us like a 1 through 10 rating. 10, was it amazing? 1, was it like, oh my God, it was just like awful. I'll say my number was somewhere around 7, actually. Like, the weather here was freezing, but my kids are to this age where they were able to pretty independently do things while we kind of waited at the end of the block. So that was really fun. So kind of nice to just visit with friends and neighbors. I see you, Mama Margot, saying she's an 8. So that sounds like that was pretty good. Others, what was your number? Would love to hear what your number was from Halloween last night. And as you're checking in, Fritzy is going to be welcoming you and saying hello and making sure that we are able to take note that you're commenting, because those that comment in Instagram or in Facebook, we are giving out 3 coffee cards each day from those that commented the day before. So whether you're watching this live or in the replay, comment when I ask you to comment, because that helps you to be entered to win one of those 3 coffee cards that'll be given out tomorrow. Same will be true for the next day and the next day. So let's dive in, friends. My goodness, this topic today is how to have more joy and less upsets, and a few things to make sure that you're getting all of the content that we want you to have. The first thing is to please make sure that you've friended us in Facebook if you're there. Oh, hi, Alice. Good to see your lovely name show up there. Please make sure that you friend us and that you... so that we can be able to message with you in Messenger. And please be sure that you are, what else did I want to say about that? Make sure that you check Messenger and make sure that you decide if you want to connect more in Messenger with me. I'm available. Like me, the real person, I check messages all throughout this workshop, and it's a chance in Instagram or Facebook that you can be able to ask anything that's been on your heart or mind. If you've been wondering about what it means to have parent support, reach out and ask that. If you've been wondering just a question about a specific topic, reach out and ask that. Alice, I know that you've been wanting to connect one-on-one, so I'm sure hoping that we get a chance to do that. Secondly, I want to just say that this today, talking about how to have more joy and less upsets, is something that I hear from family after family. If you've been frustrated with upsets in your family, you are not alone. And the thing is, what I find is that it's very common that people jump into feeling more upset, because having a lot of upsets, because they're stuck in what I call the cuckoo cycle. So on your handout, if you don't have the handout yet, please comment below workbook, and I'll make sure and have Fritzy get you the workbook. But the deal is that we end up in this cuckoo cycle, which is some combination of commands and consequences. We're asking the child to do things. We are saying, can you please get your shoes on? Can you please get to bed? Can you please be nicer to your sister? Can you please give me space? Any of those types of things. And then when it doesn't work out and the child has some amount of what I call red, resistance, emotions, or defiance, they have a red reaction, we end up panicking and maybe being like, why is this happening? Why can't you be just doing this thing I said? Why aren't you a better listener? Why can't you just do what I say when I say so? And so we then jump over to consequences. And then we might have overreacted, or they might not even care. And so then we come back over to hoping that commands in some way are going to get us to a better place with our kids. And then that doesn't work. So we blow up again. Commands, consequences, commands, consequences. And I'm telling you, friend, if you have been feeling cuckoo in that cycle, that it doesn't get you anywhere, you're not alone. That's what every family tells me, like, just doesn't seem to get anywhere. Do you relate? Would you say just yes if you're like, yeah, that is how I would describe where we feel stuck? I feel like we're in this cuckoo cycle of I'm trying to say things, I'm trying to say it nicely, but then in the end, I end up blowing up or just throwing out consequences, and it is not working. You are not alone, friend. If you say the word yes, it's to be able to just put yourself out there so that others can agree with you. If you see someone else write yes, like, thank you, Angela. I want others to comment and like on Angela's comment or on others' comments so that you can be expressing to them, Angela, you are not alone. I feel that way too. And so here's the difference. Thank you, It's May Chelsea on Instagram. You are not alone. And the thing is, here's what we end up with. If you have your workbook, you'll see that there are 4 quadrants. There's high kindness, high firmness, low kindness, and low firmness. And if you were in the low kindness, low firmness, that's just neglect. You wouldn't even be at a workshop like this. So I know that's nobody who's here. But I bet you sometimes end up in the other 2 quadrants of overly high kindness and low firmness, or overly high firmness with low kindness. So those 2 pieces, my friend, end up getting us in a place where neither space is working. We're either kind of the doormat, we are like letting them scream in our face, we are feeling like we have to lay down next to them for 1 to 2 hours to get them to fall asleep. We feel like we have to only feed them 2 items for lunches and dinners because that's like our only choice. That's overly kind and lacking firmness, lacking the leadership that I know you can be holding in your family in a loving way. And the other opposite ends up being low kindness but high firmness. And you might have a partner that's more this way if you're up here. And that partner maybe it's you, ends up being overly firm because they're trying to compensate sometimes with your overly kindness, or that might just be how they were raised or how you were raised. That overly firmness is like, you're just going to do what I say when I say so because I say so. And that often can end up working a little bit in the moment, like yelling, screaming, demanding, being overly authoritarian. But I can tell you it usually leads in the long run or outside of when you're watching to resentment, rebellion, and resistance. So if we don't want them just overly taking whatever they want and taking over, and we don't want them to just be rebelling and resisting and doing sneaky things behind our back, the magic 4th quadrant is kind and firm at the same time. And coming back to the cuckoo cycle, that takes us out of the cuckoo cycle. Cuckoo ends up being these quadrants. And in the kind and firm section, I've developed a strategic recipe that helps parents that want to be kind and firm to know exactly how to do it. And in these 4 days of the workshop, I'm going to be giving you 4 of my most favorite pieces of that recipe so that you can get started right away. So how do we do that, friends? To get started right away, today, I want you to think about what's harder for you. Are you someone who tends to be challenged with being overly kind and the firmness is hard? Or you're overly firm and the kindness is hard? Are you someone who's overly kind? So is the kindness easier for you? Sorry, I'm asking what's harder for you. Is the firmness harder for you, or is the kindness harder for you when you're in difficult discipline moments with your kids? Write the words kindness or firmness. Alice says firmness. Yeah, thank you. Caitlin says, I ping pong between both. Yeah, thank you so much, Caitlin. That happens a lot too. So so if kindness is hard, oopsie, sorry. I got to make sure I do something different up here in Instagram. I accidentally let someone in, and that is not what we want. Sorry. Well, I'm not sure how to change that, so sorry, friends. Um, okay, so back to yes, thank you, Angela and Caitlin. Angela says it depends. It can be both. So what I want to tell you, friend, is that the first step in the process that is kind and firm at the same time is a piece that we call CEO. We're going to give you tools of CEO. And the first step is likely not what you think it's going to be. Many times people think that the first step when a child is being challenging is to lay into that firmness. And actually, I want to suggest to you that you're needing a space of kindness and firmness at the same time as your first step. What does that look like? To be kind and firm at the same time. In your handout, it says many people don't know this key parenting concept, but as a licensed therapist who's done this work for 15 years and worked with kids and worked with families and worked with so many parents, hundreds each year, I can tell you the best first way to improve challenging behavior is to add more sugar to the lemonade. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I was a kid, I used to go to my grandmother's house and she had a lemon tree. And it was so fun that we would make homemade lemonade at her house. And I remember just enjoying it. We would squeeze the lemons, cut them, like actually do the whole thing and then add sugar. And I remember tasting it and being like, this tastes really weird. This is off. It doesn't taste like the store-bought stuff. But somehow in my head, because I thought it was lemonade, if it wasn't right, it just needed more lemons. And so I would squeeze more lemons thinking they seemed pretty sweet. They were going to add that sweetness. And I was totally wrong. Of course, I was a kid. And what I came to find out was that lemonade is actually like 10% lemon juice and 90% sugar and water. And really, to improve that lemonade, I needed to add more sugar. Well, this became true with my kids as well. When I had my daughter, who's my second child, I had a 2.5-year-old boy and I had this baby and he was starting to have all of these negative behaviors. And I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you so difficult? Can't you be supportive of the baby? Can't you be nice? Can't you be helpful? And he was just more defiant and doing things harmful to the baby and being resistant to me. And I thought that I needed to lay down the law firmer. I needed to be firmer in order to intervene. And every time he was doing something wrong, I'd launch right into like lectures and reminding him and telling all the reasons why his behavior was not okay. Have you been there? Anyone else have this knee-jerk reaction when our kids are so frustrating? Just start lecturing and telling them why it's not okay? And guess what? That was just like adding more lemons. Yeah, it's May agrees. It was just like adding more lemons because when we launch in with these lectures, thank you, Margot, when we launch in there, then our children just feel shame and blame. And we know from the amazing work of Brene Brown that the shame brain is not a wise brain. The shame brain is not our learning brain. And so, friend, the first gateway to get a child to be willing to move with us out of that resistant, defiant, naughty space is to add more sugar to the lemonade. Another way I like to say this is to connect before we correct. And this may sound overly simple, but it is completely transformational. I know that Alice can totally vouch for that here. And I know that other parents that have been through my coaching program would say this again, time and time again. I thought that was the simplest thing Flora taught me, and it was one of the most powerful things that really started to transform our family. Here's what that looks like. One way I want to suggest that you do this is that this day ahead of you, when your child is being red, resistant, emotional, or defiant, that you start in your first response to them with a 30-second silent hug. Each part of this is really important. 30 seconds. It's going to feel like an hour, but it's not just like hug, hug, done. I want you to pull that child on your lap. If they're like, I'm not getting my jammies on, or, starting to fight with their sibling over a toy, or they are just refusing to get their shoes on and laying on the ground, scoop them onto your lap. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Count to 30 in your head. It will feel like an hour. But remember, this is only requiring 30 seconds. So even if you're like, I don't have time for that, when they're doing that fit, like, we got to get to bed, we got to get out the door, we have to get to swim lessons. Friend, 30 seconds. This is the most powerful way you'll ever spend 30 seconds. And if you're telling me you don't have time to do this, I'm going to tell you, you don't have time not to do this. Because I know you need something that's actually going to work, so the moment can get better, not worse. Right? Am I right? 30-second piece, silent. I'm not lecturing and explaining all the reasons that I need them to do what I need them to do during this hug. It's silent. I'm just going to go, oh, goodness. If anything I say, it's going to be to name it, to tame it. I'm going to name their feeling and say, boy, I can see you're having a hard time. Hug. Yes, it's May's liking this. Thanks for your heart emojis. 30-second, silent, and it's just a hug. It's not lecturing. It's not doing anything else. It's truly just pausing to connect before we correct. And here's why. Because that kind and firm connection first, connection leads to calm. Connection leads to cooperation. I mean, think about it. Have you ever been in a situation like that with your partner? Like, you're kind of trying to do all the chaos of the kids, and it's just so frustrating and nothing is working, and like you're like mad that the dishwasher didn't get started, and whatever the thing might be. And if your partner launches right into a bunch of like problem solving or lecturing you about it, it's gonna just make your top blow off worse. But if they were to say, come here for a sec, and pull you in for a hug, just let you feel that heart-to-heart hug, how do you think that would help your sense of being able to problem solve and be more calm in that situation? So that's why we want to try it with our kids. Connection leads to calm. Connection leads to cooperation. And my favorite thing I really want you to think about here, friends, is that this is the first step of you realizing you have the power to transform your family. You are holding the keys. Because see, the difference of that calm and cooperation from your kid starts with you giving the hug instead of the lecture, giving the support instead of the shame. Connection leads to calm. Connection leads to cooperation. Write those words down in the comments below so it can solidify for you that message. And this is going to be your mantra for the day. I want you to say to yourself again and again, connection leads to calm, connection leads to cooperation. And when your child is red, resistant, emotional, or defiant, you're going to drop all sense of trying to lecture and push and explain why that's not okay, and you are going to pull them on your lap for that 30-second silent hug. And then engage in trying to move things forward. And I want to see what happens when you do. There will be a homework thread in our live group on Facebook where you can share the results of what you noticed. And please comment there so that you can share with others what this does in your life. And secondly, if you're like, but what do I do if that hug doesn't work and they're still not listening and the shoes still aren't getting on, they aren't getting on with their brother and they aren't starting to get to bed? That's why I need you to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow we're talking about how to get a child to listen in 30 seconds or less. And that's going to be step 2 of what we do after the hug if it doesn't move things forward in the way that we want. All right, friends, so glad to see you today. Thank you for taking the time for yourself and your family because you hold the keys to truly transforming your family into more joy and ease. And don't forget to mark your calendar so you can come back tomorrow to join us again. See you soon.